Marty, thank you for coming. Marty Walsh, everybody. Right. Marty, thank you so much. I know what it's like to try to juggle schedules. So, quick hello to these folks, and then we've got 4 terrific students who are going to ask you a question apiece, and then you can do what you want to do, and we'll go off. And
we have one more thing tonight, Gov, so I want
to
say thank you.
That's right.
It's an honor, it's a pleasure to be here with Governor Dukakis and all of you that are here tonight. Thank you for taking time out. I know we're going to be quick. The governor said, I want you to come to Northeastern, and I'll have you up before the beginning of the Red Sox game. I said, we have 2 more events after that, so I'll be seeing the Red Sox game around the 7th inning, so we're all set.
Great. A brief greeting.
Oh, sorry, okay. I just want to say thank you to everyone. My name is Marty Walsh. I'm a state representative from Dorchester. I've been in the legislature for 16 years. I've had the great honor of representing the good people of Dorchester. I have been able to be involved in many great issues on Beacon Hill, from creating industry in the biotech industry to my proudest vote on gay marriage, preserving the right for marriage equality. When I first got elected to the legislature, one of the issues that was a big issue was the death penalty. And for the young people out there, it was right after a young boy had been murdered in Cambridge. And being a new state representative, or they call us a freshman state rep, I was there for 3 months. And really kind of understanding on how you come to an understanding, do you vote for it or against it. And it was about a month and a half long campaign for the death penalty. And I literally changed my mind every day. I'd be for it. I would talk to somebody the next day, I'd be against it. I would talk to somebody else for it. Ultimately, I voted against it. I'm proud I voted against that penalty because it was the right thing to do on Beacon Hill. It was kind of my introduction to politics, where I had to really think about an issue where I stood on a particular position. And I say that to a lot of young people because being in politics is a great career. You can help a lot of people. It's a great opportunity to be able to help people. And I'd ask you to stay involved in the process. I know you're here tonight. There's a mayor's race going on. I see some Michelle Blue stickers, so you're here for Michelle. Michelle's great. And you might be here for your candidate, but it's also important for you to get involved in politics and stay active in the political system. Because this mayor's race that we're talking about right now, and I was just interviewed on the radio by somebody from Suffolk University, it's about you. It's about your future. We're talking about issues around education and education reform, which isn't necessarily to you, but potentially on the future. But how are we going to grow Boston? What's the economy going to look like? As I'm looking to grow the Boston economy, I'm really basing it on the graduates from the colleges and universities here in the city of Boston, and particularly those of you that come from outside of Boston and here for college life. I want to try and attract and keep you here so that you can settle down here and maybe someday have a family, buy a home, and be able to do some great things. So that's what this mayor's race is really all about, is about you. So I'm glad you're here tonight, so thank you. I'm glad the other folks are here tonight as well, but I want to thank the young people in particular.
Thanks, Marty. Okay, a question. Introduce yourself and ask your question.
Yes. My name is Marie Francis Rivera, and I'm a graduate student here at Northeastern in the Law and Public Policy program. So my question is, in the past decade, state funding to the city has fallen by 60%, and state aid to schools has fallen by 30%. In my work, I work with a lot of young people, and they share stories about not having enough books in their classrooms and infrastructure crumbling in their schools. And this past year, there was a contentious debate at the State House about raising taxes to fund transportation, education, and other essential services. How would you as mayor influence that dialogue?
Thank you very much. Well, I can tell you, as a state representative, I've been up there for 16 years, and my first couple of years as a rep, we had plenty of money. We actually cut taxes 44 times in the Commonwealth, and we were able to build new parks and fund a lot of programs. And then after September 11, 2001, the economy just kind of collapsed, and we've never rebounded. And since that time, that's where the cut in local aid has happened, and that's where the cut in a lot of programs have happened. And we've been trying to reestablish it. In 2002, the legislature had the largest tax increase in the history of the Commonwealth. And what happened in that tax increase was that the leadership of the House and the Senate and the governor actually went out and sold that idea to cities and towns and why it was important to raise revenue. And you had papers around this Commonwealth writing editorials saying that we need to raise taxes. We're able to raise those taxes at that particular moment. We were creative by freezing the income tax, and we raised capital gains, and we cut charitable contributions. So we did a lot around it at that point. Then 2 years ago, the legislature, we raised taxes again, and the sales tax. Although I know for a fact at the time I spoke about it, we raised the wrong tax. I think we should have looked at income tax rather than sales tax, because one of the problems in our economy is the fact that people weren't buying things. So that's a problem. So we raise the tax that people aren't buying. But the one thing we did for Boston and that is we gave them a local option to increase the meals tax, 0.75%, which is roughly $20 to $25 million to allow them to do that. In this particular tax package that we just took on Beacon Hill, at the end of last session, the discussion around that package was going to be for transportation. And there was a lot of discussion about we were going to raise some revenue for transportation to improve our transportation system. And then the governor filed legislation that went far beyond transportation and covered a whole bunch of different areas. And there wasn't a will or a desire up on Beacon Hill to be able to pass that tax. So what we ended up passing was roughly a $750 million package, which went directly to transportation. As mayor of the city of Boston, I certainly am going to be looking for additional revenues in the Commonwealth. And if there's a sensible tax plan that's put in place that's going to benefit the city, not just the city of Boston, but all cities and towns, I certainly would be on Beacon Hill supporting it.
Thanks, Marty. Who's next? Steve, go ahead.
My name is Steve Jaber. I graduated from Boston High School last year. I'm currently a freshman in BC, and I was a Ward Fellow about 2 years ago. And my question is, I come from the neighborhood of East Boston. And as you know, right now, the biggest issue for East Boston residents, and many Bostonians in general, is a proposal for a casino at Suffolk Downs. This is an issue many residents are divided on, and East Bostonians are soon set to go to the polls. My question for you is, hypothetically, if the casino proposal were to fail, what would you, as mayor, propose for alternatives for economic developments in the area?
Great question, thank you very much. That's a large piece of land down there, and Suffolk Downs, the owners of Suffolk Downs are banking on making sure a casino happens there. Well, the future of the racetrack, as we know it today, will be no longer. Suffolk Downs has suffered many years of financial loss there, and they've been up on Beacon Hill many times looking for a proposal, whether it's slots or casinos, some type of gaming entertainment. If the voters of East Boston rule it down, then what we'll have to do is we'll have two issues. One is we'll have to work with the owners of Suffolk Downs to see what their plans would be for the future. But I think one of the ideal plans for that area would possibly be a mixed-use development, where we'd be trying to establish some industry to be able to use that land so we can create new jobs for folks, and also an opportunity to build housing, moderate and low-income housing in a neighborhood that every neighborhood is in dire need of housing. But I think we could honestly look at doing some moderate and low-income housing on a potential site that large. But I think the key component to that would be who can we attract as an anchor tenant to potentially create jobs. And it's an area that I would look to in my campaign. When I talk about economic development, I'm looking beyond the normal areas such as the Fenway area, or the downtown crossing area, or the Copley area, or the waterfront area. I'm looking how can we bring industry to neighborhoods, and that's certainly a neighborhood that's in dire need of industry. And I would look to the biotech councils and different areas about what type of industry can we bring into those neighborhoods that pay good paying jobs for folks, and in some cases that don't necessarily need a high quality of education, but have GEDs and high school diplomas, because that's a need in our city, but we're lacking tremendously right now.
All right, thank you.
Who's next? Hannah.
Hi, my name is Hannah Givers, and I'm a senior at Boston Latin School as well as a Ward Fellow this summer. Being a senior in high school, it has come to my attention that teacher tenure policies do not evaluate teachers based on merit or performance, but rather the length of their employment. The state law indicates that a teacher must only be employed for 3 years in order to meet the tenure requirement, which potentially ensures the teacher lifetime job protection. As mayor, would you support tenure review for Boston Public School teachers?
I'm not sure about that right now. What I'd have to do is sit down with the unions and negotiate, and understanding what we can do. I mean, one of the things in Boston that we're going to look at, in 2010 I voted on legislation that allowed the cities and towns around the Commonwealth to change the collective bargaining rules for underperforming schools in the city of Boston. And in the case of Boston, the union and the city wasn't able to come up with an understanding on how to extend the school day and allow turnaround schools in Boston. So what I intend on doing, and I've had conversations with the union, who by the way is not supporting my candidacy, sit down and talk to them about how can we look to reopen the contract to get the changes we need to improve our schools in Boston. And one of those issues will be around teacher tenure and how can we change the contract in and around that area.
Thank you.
Dan, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Danny Morrissey. I'm a Northeastern University student inside of North. Boston recently unveiled a 35-year bicycle infrastructure plan. Modern younger generations are currently promoting the automobile in favor of walking, transit, bicycling, are establishing in New York.
Give it a try.
What can you do to improve bicycle safety and to decrease transportation inequality through bicycle infrastructure?
for the question. This has been a big issue in this mayoral campaign. A lot of the biggest forum we had was really about bicycles, and the bike union has been very active in this race. I think we can certainly speed up the plan and not have a 35-year bicycle plan. I think in Boston we can do better than that. I think we can also look about as we do development in the city of Boston, how do we build some infrastructure around that development to ensure that bicyclists can have a safe safe mode of transportation, if you will. The problem we have in Boston is that a lot of the streets, particularly in downtown, were built back in the day when it was horse and biking, and they're really not fit in some cases, for automobiles. So we have to be very creative in how we create safe transportation of bicycles around the city of Boston. One thing I think we do have to do is education around bicyclists. I think we have to try and incorporate it into our driver's education program. We also have to do a public safety announcement to drivers to understand that they don't own the road, they share the road with bicyclists. And the other way around too, we have to let bicyclists know they share the road with automobiles as well. So I definitely think there's ways of us improving the bicycle infrastructure in the city of Boston. In some areas we won't have a problem with it. In certain areas we will have a problem with it. I know that some people don't like the secondary road type of idea. It was told to me is discriminatory, but I think in some cases if we can have safe secondary roads for bicycles, I think we should look at every option on the table. And in order to get to the goal of the city, and I believe it's 20 miles in 35 years? Is it 20 miles of bicycle in 35 years? Yeah. We certainly should be able to get there far before that, and it will take an approach by working with my department heads, my transportation department, my public works department. And I also think we have to look at upgrading our light signals in the city of Boston, similar to what Cambridge has and other cities and towns around the country, so that we have proper light cycles for both cars and bicycles, and also pedestrians as well.
Thank you.
Not lights for pedestrians, lights for bicycles, pedestrian safe modes of sidewalks and walking areas.
Marty, anything else you'd like to add before we let you go off to your next?
No, I'd just like to ask everyone to go out. If you'd like to have, for the Boston voter in the room that's undecided, I'd like to ask you to go to martywalsh.org and look at my policy. All my policies are online. We have these events called Mondays with Marty's. There's only one more left. It's tomorrow night. I'm not sure where it is. I'll tell you in a minute. It's a veterans issue. We've been going around the city of Boston. We've done 13 straight Mondays where we've gone into different neighborhoods in the city of Boston and talked about what my candidacy is all about. It's actually been very encouraging. And I was asked last week as mayor of the city of Boston, when I continue that once a month to have a town hall meeting in different neighborhoods, and I committed to that because I think it's important as mayor of the city of Boston that you connect to people and hear what people have to say. A lot of people in Boston, 80% say they've met John Menino, and that's probably true, and he's been in office for 20 years, so it's unrealistic to think the next mayor can get to 80% in 4 years. However, by creating opportunities for people to be able to come and listen to the mayor and his administration is important. So I'd like to ask for your vote, your support, and I'd also like to thank Governor Dukakis for the opportunity to come here tonight. And I'd also like to acknowledge my dear friend and former colleague, Representative Bussinger from Brookline, who's here as well today. And one last thing, and this has brought any students to Governor here?
Yeah, they're here.
Governor, I'd love someday to make sure we have the North-South Rail link.
Here's one other idea, Marty, before you go.
Yes.
This is my only opportunity.
I like it, so I support that.
I know you do. I know you do. There's a lot of talk about the Innovation District and how it's getting very expensive and congested and stuff. I've always thought the Melnia-Cass corridor was a terrific development opportunity. You've got us here, you've got BU Medical School, you've got a number of hospitals and stuff, and yet nobody seems to be talking about Roxbury and the Melnia-Cass corridor is an obvious place to develop.
I agree with you there, and I also would like to take some development to Dudley Square, which isn't too far.
Which is part of it, yeah.
And I think that one thing that we're doing, what I've announced, is that I want to change the structure of what the BRA looks like today. I'm creating the Boston Economic Development Authority, which will be a cabinet level position, and it really is about recruiting and retaining a business here in Boston. But under that will be the BRA, EDIC in a different form, D&D, Department of Neighborhood Development, and Tourism. So all of the agencies that will actually attract revenue to the city of Boston will fall under this. We want to change the structure of the board to put two term limits, two 5-year term limits on the board. And I'm going to also have one of the board members appointed by the Boston City Council to allow some transparency there, so Boston can get some transparency. And we also want to activate the community, get the community engaged earlier in the process rather than later in the process. And one other piece of that we want to do is have predictability for the developers. The building right now, there's no predictability in a lot of cases for the developer. So I think that's a piece. And one piece, particularly for the women in the room, we're looking to create under that development agency an office to be able to promote and help fund, help secure projects, whether it's private work or public construction for women-owned and people of color-owned businesses, to really strengthen that market. Because right now in Boston, there's a real gap there. I was at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast last week, and they were asking me a question about what's the diversity of my cabinet going to be, and my answer was, you know, it's going to reflect the city of Boston. 50% people of color, but I kind of shot back and said certainly a lot more than here. There needs to be business opportunities for people of color and women also in Boston. When you go to the Chamber of Commerce, you see a lot of men that look like me and you, Governor. And I think it's important that this economic development authority that we're going to create in Boston is really going to give people opportunity to move forward. This is a unique race. This is the first time in 20 years as a mayor's race. And you know, again, not to say the mayor's done a great job, but there's innovation technology inside City Hall. We don't have answering machines in City Hall. You heard me right. We don't have answering machines in City Hall. And we need to update our computer technology, our web pages. We need to download apps, allow people accessibility through their cell phone, through the internet. And also, one of the goals we're looking here in Boston is having a completely Wi-Fi city that we don't have today. Now you have a lot of areas in Boston that are a lot of dead space. And you know, if Kansas City, Missouri can have partnership with Google and have Wi-Fi, I'm sure thinking Boston might be able to pull it off a little bit.
So it's still going to be the Red Sox in 6? You're sticking with that prediction?
Red Sox in 6, I'm sticking by it.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks so much.